A woman was sitting across from a renowned businessman in an interview. She was hoping to land the job of being his personal assistant. The billionaire seemed interested in her, but she had no idea he was watching her like a hawk, waiting for her to make a small slip-up so he could test her. What he heard next made him take out his pen and make a note on his notepad. Henry Tyler was known around the world as the CEO of Tyler Industries. His net worth was over $700 million. He owned multiple companies that specialized in technology and machinery. Henry's name was synonymous with innovation and hard work. For many, he was a role model and the epitome of success. As he grew older, he began thinking about retiring and passing his company down to someone. Unfortunately, he didn't have any sons, but he did have a daughter named Alice. Alice wasn't interested in taking over her father's company. She went to college to be a marine biologist and worked in that field. Even though she didn't want to run the business, Henry was proud of her and knew she would do well. So he decided to keep his plans to himself. Henry's friends and business partners often teased him about not grooming his daughter to take over his company. "Why aren't you training Alice to run your company? You can trust her more than anyone else," one of his friends once told him. Henry would just smile and shake his head. He had a surprise up his sleeve that no one knew about. He decided to start looking for someone who could eventually replace him at his company. It had to be someone intelligent, resourceful, and someone he could train as. He placed an ad in the local newspaper and told his secretary to only bring people in for an interview if they had a bachelor's degree and relevant experience. He wanted someone highly qualified. One day, a woman came into his office. She introduced herself to Henry as Ella Watson. Ella had all the qualifications Henry asked for in the newspaper ad. On top of that, she was beautiful. Throughout the interview, Ella and Henry talked about their past experiences. All seemed to be going well. But Henry had a trick up his sleeve. He watched Ella very closely, waiting for her to make a small mistake or show some kind of weakness. He wanted to see how she would react when put on the spot. Ella was smart, confident, and collected. No matter what Henry threw at her, she handled it with ease. Just when Henry was about to lose hope of finding a worthy successor, something unexpected happened. He noticed a wedding ring on Ella's finger. He thought this might be her weak point. "Are you married?" he asked her. Ella replied, "Yes, I am." Henry followed up by asking, "Do you plan on having children?" Ella nodded. "I hope to have a big family." Henry pretended to be disappointed. "You want a big family? How will you manage this job with a family to take care of?" Ella thought for a moment before replying, "I have complete faith in my husband that he can take care of our children while I work. And once I get comfortable with the job, I can cut back on my hours to spend more time with them." Henry was taken aback by her response. He liked her guts. This is exactly the kind of attitude he wanted in someone working for him. Just then, Henry's secretary knocked on the door and whispered something to him. Henry looked back at Ella and smiled. "Ms. Watson, I have one more question for you. If you answer truthfully, you'll get the job. But if you lie to me, you're out of here." Ella nodded, signaling that she understood. "Who's your father?" he asked her. Ella was shocked. She thought long and hard about how to respond. Telling the truth would mean losing the job of her dreams. Lying would also come with consequences. After a minute of silence, Ella finally responded, "My father is an average man who works at a factory." Henry was ready to write her off right away. He picked up his notepad and made a couple of notes. When he looked back up at her, Ella was staring at the floor. He let her stew in her apparent failure for a moment before speaking again. "Well then, Ms. Watson, it seems you got the job." Ella looked up at him in shock. "What?" Henry stood up from his desk and walked over to her. He extended his hand for a handshake. "Congratulations. I expect you to start on Monday." With that, he turned and walked back to his desk. Before Ella could even speak, the secretary was by her side. "Ms. Watson, please fill out these forms," she said, handing her a stack of papers. As Ella filled out the information, she couldn't help but wonder why Henry hired her. She was sure she didn't do well in the interview. The following Monday, Ella arrived at the office, bright and early. She was dressed professionally and ready to start her new job. She walked into Henry's office and handed him her completed employee paperwork. "Thank you, Miss Watson," Henry said, glancing over the documents. "Please sit down. We need to talk." She sat down in a chair opposite his desk. "Henry Tyler," he said. "I know who you are." He stared at her in disbelief. "What?" Henry exclaimed. "How do you know my name?" Ella took a deep breath. "Mr. Tyler, I want to tell you the truth. I'm sorry I lied to you in the interview, but I really need this job. My husband and I are struggling financially, and we need the money." Henry interrupted her. "It's all right. I already know why you lied. And to be honest, I think it was the best decision you've ever made." Ella was confused. "What do you mean?" Henry leaned back in his chair and took a deep breath. "I'm going to tell you something you probably don't know. You see, I don't have any sons, and I was hoping to pass my company down to my daughter. But Alice isn't interested in taking over, so I started looking for someone to train to replace me. I know this is a lot to take in, but I need you to listen carefully." He continued, "You were the perfect candidate for the job, but I needed to make sure you were the right person for the job. So I tested you. You passed with flying colors." He reached out and handed her a photograph. Ella took it from him and gasped. In the picture was a young girl holding onto Henry's hand. The girl looked to be around 8 years old. "Who's that?" she asked. Henry smiled. "That's my daughter, Alice. And that was 15 years ago. You two went to school together. Remember?" Ella's jaw dropped. She remembered playing with Alice when they were kids, but she never knew she was the boss's daughter. Henry continued. "I kept it a secret because I didn't want anyone treating Alice differently because of who her father was. That's why I asked you about your father. I wanted to see if you would lie to protect yourself or tell the truth, no matter the consequences." Ella felt terrible. She never intentionally tried to hide the fact that her father was a simple factory worker. "I'm sorry, Mr. Tyler. I would never intentionally try to deceive you. I promise." Henry waved his hand dismissively. "Now that we've established you're a good person, I have a proposition for you." He explained his plan to retire and pass his company down to her. At first, Ella couldn't believe what she was hearing, but as Henry continued talking, she realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After a few weeks of training, Ella officially took over Henry's position at Tyler Industries. She worked hard and was determined to make her father proud. To this day, Ella is known as one of the most successful CEOs in the world, and it all started with a simple interview question. If you enjoyed this story, please share it with your loved ones. And if you learned anything from it, be sure to comment below. We appreciate you taking the time to read this story.